What is up, guys? It is DigiWatch coming to you with another deck profile. Now, today I had the opportunity to participate in the CoreTCG regionals for October for the Digimon card game, and I played Royal Knights. And I don't think I've given you guys a Royal Knights deck profile. It's a deck I've actually put a lot of thought and work into in terms of figuring out what the best and consistent builds are and the most balanced of decks. And unfortunately, I didn't get to top 32 or top 16. I got to top 64. But I did want to showcase the deck I am playing because we are going to be switching formats in a few weeks, and I will be making updates to this deck. Yes, you can actually make updates in BT14 to this deck if you'd like. But with that said, please like, subscribe, leave your thoughts below, and let's get into it. So starting with the eggs, if you don't know what it does, this is King Drazel 76. Basically, the theme of the deck is that King Drazel does not move out of the breeding area. All the effects resolve in the breeding area, and has quite a few of them. The first one being that all your Digimon cannot Digivolve while this card is in the breeding area. Secondly, once returned, you can reduce the cost of one of your Digimon Royal Knight trait in your hand, and then additionally for one additional reduction for every Digivolution card this card has. So usually what you want to do is you want to put underneath Royal Knights from card effects or by its own effect, which I'm about to get to right now. So the third effect is breeding. Start your main phase. Reveal the top card of your Digi-Egg and place it underneath this card, which would mean that it now has another Digivolution source. So as you're seeing the picture right now on the screen, we have 3 King Drazels underneath each other, which would mean that you have a total of reduction of 7, 4 for the one on top, and then 1 for every source underneath. And additionally, if you have Royal Knights underneath that, that counts as well as Digivolution cards, meaning that you go 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 until you have enough that you can bring them all out, which I'll get into later for game. Additionally, Royal Knights also, that whatever you have in terms on the field, Royal Knights will go underneath this card at the start of your main phase as well for sources. And then it does have a breeding inherited effect, which would usually be more like on these cards here if I was stacking them up, which is basically saying breeding your turn. Once returned, when an option card with a Royal Knight trait is placed in the battle area, gain 1 memory. So there is a card we will talk about later that we play in this deck, and that is basically the deck itself. Now we're going to start with, I think it's easier to speak about the purpose of most of these cards rather than like the levels or whatnot. So we're going to go by what purposes are, and this starting set of cards here are mainly starting cards, or the starters. Starting things off, we have Omecamon here. Omecamon is a 4-cost. You hard play it. On play, you draw 1. On deletion, you place 1 Digimon card, Royal Knight trait, from your hand to the bottom of the King Drazel 76. I'm going to refer to it 76. It's just an easier way of me speeding through this video. But basically, when this gets deleted, you put a card with Royal Knight trait underneath 76. And that's basically what its job is. It's basically a little chip damage to get along out of the way. So we are playing 4 copies of that. We are also playing 1 copy of Sistermon Seal and 1 copy of Sistermon Blanc. These cards are really good because it either loads up your trash, or it lets you search for your bigger pieces or more important pieces. So Sistermon Seal is on play. Look at the top 3 cards of your deck. Add a card with Royal Knight trait to your hand. I'm just going to paraphrase some of these because they do refer to more Jessamon cards. But this one basically is for Royal Knights. So you're going to look at the top 3, get 1 card with Huckmon or Royal Knight trait, and then the rest get trashed. And then all your Digimon with Huckmon or Royal Knight trait and their names get reboot. And then this one is trash 1 card in your hand, draw 2. And then this basically acts as a decoy card for your Royal Knights that are black or red. So if one of your Royal Knights were black or red were attempting to be deleted, the Blanc can get deleted instead. I might up the amount of Sistermons in the deck because today I just wasn't seeing the pieces in time, and it did cost me a couple of games. We are running 4 copies of one of my personal favorite cards, Magnamon here on play. There's no on play, I'm sorry. So it has a few effects, and you can. This is a really good starter, as I mentioned before, because turn 1, you usually have 2 sources. You have the top source of your 76, and then you have 1 underneath, and that's a reduction of 5. So you can hard play this first turn for 2. And then you have blocker. As the mainly why this is here is it'll stop problematic cards, maybe from doing early chip damage. The other reason you do it is all turns if this card were to leave the field or the battle area in any way. So by battle, by in a card effect, you draw 1. It has another effect which you may want to try incorporating maybe, which you can play a Vmon from underneath itself or from your, I think, hand or trash hand. Hand. If you want to. So it's something some people might want to experiment with, put maybe some Vmons that can do some maybe jamming. Maybe you could use like jamming chip damage into your opponent's security. That might be something people want to try out. But yeah, that's mainly like a starter. You mainly try to get it out just so you get the extra draw. But it's really nice to have a blocker, and it's very it synergizes very well with the deck. The last card that I would consider to be a starter is Mastemon here. Mastemon is an on-play searcher, so you look at the top 4 cards of your deck, and you can add 2 cards with Mastemon in their name or Royal Knight trait among them to your hand. Additionally, if you play another Digimon with Mastemon in its name or Royal Knight in its traits, all your opponent's level 4 or lower Digimon become get deleted. So this is, again, a really good card to start out with. Sometimes it's unfortunate, but you have to give your opponent maybe 5 memory, but you do get to look at 4 cards in your top of your deck, and the rest get trashed, by the way, if I didn't mention that. But really good searcher card, in my opinion, and it's definitely a card that a lot of experienced players try to get rid of, because if they know you're looking for a piece, they'll try to get rid of your only way of doing it. Now, let's transition. We're going to get away from the starters into your offensive engine. Now, your offensive engine is basically the ways you're going to be able to clear out problematic cards from the field, and we have 2 of them mainly. We have Jesmon and we have All Force. These are really good for different situations. Jesmon, I think, is the one a lot of people like more, but All Force I felt was very, very helpful today for being able to trash sources from your opponent's stuff. So basically, these both have the on plays and with Digivolving. For Jesmon, on play, you can choose any number of your opponent's Digimon and delete up to 6,000 DP, but for every other Digimon you have in play, then you can increase that amount by 2,000 additional. So if I have my All Force present on the field and I play Jesmon, I add 2,000 to the 6,000 deletion based effect, so I can delete something that's 8,000. Additionally, all turns, for each of your other Digimon with Sistermon in its name or Royal Knight in its traits, all your Digimon get plus 1,000. So because All Force would be on the field, Jesmon gets an additional 1,000, and All Force gets another 1,000. So he'll be 12 and 12. All Force has, for All Force's effect on play when Digivolving, for each of your Digimon with Royal Knight trait and each of your Blue Tamers, trash the top 2 cards of one of your opponent's Digimon, and then once per turn, when you play a Digimon, which also, by the way, includes itself, so if you hard play it, includes itself, you can play, if you play a Digimon with Royal Knight trait or Blue Tamer, return one of your opponent's Digimon with no sources back to the hand. So, really like this card. Like I mentioned before, it gets rid of problematic cards, especially if your opponent just has decides to like put something out maybe with very few sources and just bounces it back to hand. This was very helpful in a BeelzeMon match I had today, which unfortunately I did not win the whole thing, but these are your ways of removing problematic cards. Now, switching from offense to defense, we are playing our defensive package, which I think is very important on being able to hold off until you're ready to go for game. So starting things off, we have 3 copies of Gankomon. This card is probably my favorite card out of the entire deck, just because of how powerful it can be. It can basically grab any of your Royal Knights from underneath your 76 in the breeding area, or one of your Sistermon from your trash, and it is also just inherently blocker. So one thing I like to do is, if you have a Gankomon, you can play out offensively. If there's a problematic card, you can bring out All Force, and then All Force will strip not 2 but 4 because it counts himself, and the Gankomon for 4 sources, stripped 4 sources from something and bounce it. Usually that would mean a level 6 back to hand. But the main reason late game, if you're under a lot of pressure and you need ways of staying alive. You want to be able to bring out these cards, which I'll show right now. We run 2 copies of Alphamon. This card is really powerful on play when digivolving by placing one card with Royal Knight in its traits or Extended Body in its traits from your trash underneath this card. Your opponent cannot attack the player with anything that has 10 costs or above. Additionally, if this card would be removed from the field any which ways, you can put a Digivolution card with X Antibody to the bottom of your deck to avoid that. So this is a very strong card in order to maintain being alive if your opponent has a very strong Digimon in play. Additionally, we play 2 copies of Craniumon, and this card was so good today. Saved me in a lot of matches. So it has its inherent blocker when number 1 on play when digivolving. Until the end of your opponent's turn, this Digimon isn't affected by any of your opponent's Digimon's effects. And then, end of your opponent's turn, choose one of your opponent's Digimon. Your opponent has to attack with that Digimon. Now, that is a mandatory effect, so if your opponent has an applicable card, they have to attack with it. That is an unfortunate truth of this card, and sometimes you don't want that to happen, but I found that you have to. But you can after you initially play these 2 out, you can use Gankomon to constantly bring them back out and reactivate their effects. So these are all really good defensive options in terms of like getting ready to do your win con. Now, transitioning to your win con, we have 3 copies of the card that I think everyone always most likely plays at 3. Sometimes you see a few decks with 2, but 3 I think is the right number, is Leopardmon. So with Leopardmon here is a main effect, so it doesn't mean the start of main, it just means whenever in main. Basically, you can play a Royal Knight trait Digimon or a green Digimon for a reduced cost of 4 from your hand, and this really helps you cheat out your bigger boys, the ones that are 13 costs. And then when you play another Digimon, all your Royal Knight and green Digimon gain blocker until the end of your opponent's turn. So this is really good when you do load this up underneath your 76, and then you bring everything out all at once with the Omnimon effect, which we'll get to next, which everything essentially will gain blocker. So this card is a mandatory card. I think this is like a very big part of the deck that makes the deck just work. But we're going to get into, I'm going to show you the win con of this deck, and then I'm going to show you the tech options and other things. So we're not all done with all the Royal Knights. There are a few that I think are important. So here's Galamon. Galamon is on play when digivolving and when attacking, delete a 6,000 DP, and if you don't delete a 6,000 DP, you attempt to delete a 13,000 or more DP. So that's the effect there. It has Rush inherently, and then it could technically be able to be played by its own effects. So its own effect says this: you can reduce the cost of playing this card for 2 by 2 for every 5 cards in both players' trash. So I think the total is 35, where if both players have a combined total of 35 cards in trash, you're able to essentially bring this out for free, not using the effect of 76 to reduce itself. And it has Rush, so it could attack the same turn it comes out. Very powerful card in my opinion. I would consider, if I could find a good something to take out, I would put a 3rd one in. But our real win con is this card right here, Omnimon. So Omnimon is your turn. On play when digivolving, you can delete one of your opponent's Digimon or play one of each Digimon with the Royal Knight trait, any different name from the Digivolution cards of one of your Digimon in the breeding area without paying the memory costs. When a Digimon is played by this effect, trash your Digimon in the breeding area, and all of your Digimon gain Rush this turn. Now, something to just mention about this card, because a lot of people have had some confusion about it, is that you can play another card out. So let's say you bring Gankomon, and Gankomon brings out a Sistermon from your trash, which is one of its effects. You can that Sistermon will have Rush. And that's my understanding, and I've checked in a couple different sources. So if you find that that is not true, though, I would just recommend speaking to your local judge or going to the Bandai Discord server to be able to confirm. But this is your win con. Basically, your goal is to get this card plus maybe 4 or 5 other Digimon underneath your Royal Knight, your 76, and play them out and be able to just swing multiple times per game. And by the time when you have 6 of those strong Digimon now, your opponent's gonna have a lot of trouble being able to clear everything in one turn. But I've seen it happen. It is possible, and so you own 4 copies of the Omnimon here as your win con. Now, in terms of potential techs and one-ofs I've played in the deck, we play 1 copy of Porcupamon. This is against problematic cards like Floodgates that stop like Psychmon, which you can't reduce play cost. So on play and when to deletion, it can KO one of your opponent's cards there. This is something I've been struggling to figure out if I could put a second one in, which I might move some cards around, like I said. Then we're gonna go. Then my other tech was DeathX, but this only saw play once today, and it really didn't help the situation, so I might cut it. I just tried to see if it was going to work as just a way of keeping Floodgates off the field before they actually get on the field. So that, and then we have our one of techs. So I play one Lord Nightmon. So this card is on play. You can, and when Digivolving, return one of your Lucimon in your trash, or Roy and a Digimon in your trash to your hand. And then opponent's turn, once per turn, when an opponent's Digimon attacks, gain 1 memory for each of your Digimon with Royal Knight trait. So basically, if you have this come out with the rest of the Royal Knights, your opponent will have to pay something like maybe 4 or 5 memory just to make 1 attempt to attack your security. So very important there. We play 1 of the BT12 Raid Gallantmon. Really good because you could load this up with a few certain cards into your underneath 76, and if you attempt to raid. It's a good way of getting rid of cards your opponent is just having out there, and because maybe they don't want to attack or they know that you're about to bring out all your guys. Very good, powerful card, but I think 1 of is definitely the limit right now. I'd go with. Contorsmon is a lifesaver sometimes. I tried using more of him. It just wasn't as consistent as I had hoped. But Contorsmon is 1 Digivolving when on play. You, if you have a total of 6 or less cards in both players' security stacks, you can reveal 1 card in your hand. If that card is yellow, it goes to the top of your security, then gain 3 memory to it, and then once per turn, by trashing the top card of your security stack, you can unsuspend this Digimon, and one of your opponent's Digimon gets minus 7,000. This card has been very, very powerful in many ways throughout the day, and I definitely think he's still worth playing at least at 1. And then the one tech that I felt like I tried and it worked out so well, and I definitely recommend it, is the Examon from EX3. So this Examon, I'm not going to worry about talking about the one Digivolving. The real reason is for the alternates effect of when this Digimon becomes suspended, you can unsuspend this Digimon and suspend one of your opponent's Digimon. So it's a 15,000 beater. You can place it, if you are able to bring this out somehow, you can basically suspend prominent cards that may, you can suspend blockers, you can attack multiple times. So these 4 are, I would say, interchangeable. You can change ratio. You don't need to play these cards. It's just stuff you could play. I still recommend 1 Lord Nightmon regardless, but for these 3, it's whatever you want. If you want to put in an extra Alphamon or extra Craniumon, or you want to play more Gallantmons, you can definitely change that with these cards here. So that's pretty much all the Royal Knights here. But finishing up the video, we are going to go over the option cards and the tamers. So I guess we'll just do the tamers first because they're really easy. 2 Marcus Damon. Really reason why it's a dual color red and yellow. We do have an option that's red. And then on play, it's a memory tamer, and on play you can suspend it to minus 3,000 to one of your Digimon. It's a way of getting rid of floodgates like Psychmon, which is very important. So that is why we play 2 of them. You can go up a few, which I actually might. I'm not sure yet. But for the options, we play probably the most important option in the deck, one that you kind of also want to consider starting with, and that is Purge, Royal Knights of the Purge. So what this does is you draw 1, and then you can place 1 Digimon with Royal Knight trait from your hand to underneath your 76, and then it has a delay effect, so meaning on the next turn you can activate this effect. You can trash this card. The card you bring out gains Rush, but it does not gain its on-play effects. So, as I mentioned before, if you have this card and you have a card like Xamon. Xamon, you can pull the Purge out, bring out Xamon, and then Xamon is 15k, swing, unsuspend, swing again. And that will be 2 checks to your opponent's security. So that's part of the reason why you're running the Xamon, is for like plays like that, just to be a little bit aggro when you need to. But we play 4 copies of this. I think it's just probably the most important thing. Plus you get, don't worry about the 6 costs, because you do have the memory gain that you get from King Drazel. 76. But lastly, we played 2 copies of Congo. I can't tell you how many times this card saved me today. Definitely another MVP of the deck. It stops 7 costs or lower being able to attack, and then it also stops them from recovering. And this is important because against, like, I faced a MirageGao W player today, and he couldn't really do anything for 2 turns because I pulled into 2 of these and I played it each turn. So Congo and then Congo again. He had to basically give up on those attacks there. So definitely really, really powerful card here. And then 2 Crimson Blaze as the last option in the deck, just because it does stop your opponent from being able to play out cards by effects, and it can kill very long boards. There's actually a couple of matches where my opponent got me down to a very low security, and I feel like they just didn't know what to do exactly, so they started going a little wider, playing multiple copies of Agumons and stuff like that, and so I just Crimson Blazed them, popped all their lower guys, and was able to get rid of their big guys. So definitely okay, but I might change out a couple of cards in the future, and I'm going to speak about that really quick before we finish up the video. First, I want to talk about my matchups. So round 1, I faced a Black or Greymon player, was able to beat him. Round 2, I lost to Shine Greymon. Shine Greymon is still a very powerful deck, in my opinion, and they just, whenever they get the cards they need, they just get it. Like, it's very hard to compete against decks like that. It's unfortunate, but when they see their stuff, they do it. And like, honestly, I faced a player who he said he actually never faced Royal Knights, so he didn't really know what anything did. And having a deck that just basically is able to play out Tamers is just very powerful. And it was a very good match. Respect to the player, so really good. Then I'm going to shout out this person because they're going to give me a shout out. But it was really fun. I really had a good time. Round 3, I won against a Mastemon player. I think her name is I think it's Curiosity, but it's spelled with a K. Definitely check her out on Twitch. And I'll put her link in my bio for the video if you want to check her out. Or tag her in the first comment. Definitely take a look there. But basically, it was very down to the wire. And I just got a little bit too much advantage in the game 3, and just being able to get stuff out early and just chip away at the life got me very, very very lucky that way. Round 4, I was against another Black Wargamon player. Very fun match, and I was able to beat them there. Round 5, I faced against a MirageGao W player. Unfortunately, he was not able to get to his top end quick enough, and I was just able to get enough stuff underneath my 76 to be able to swing and end the game before he was able to bring out anything significant. But really good matchups today. Round 6 was a Cross Hearts matchup. Put me very nervous, but one thing that you can have an edge against Cross Hearts is that you don't really mind them swinging into security because they're not going to survive. You don't need to worry about Cross 4 being able to trigger its own effect to reset one of the Tamers, and that was kind of banking on that, or allowing things to get hit into security and survive so that they don't get additional pieces. And it really came down to just the last turn. He played out a Ballistamon. I was missing an Omnimon. I just drew into the Omnimon, and I was like, all right, well, that's it. And I had 7 attacks, so there's nothing I can do about that. Good games, man. Round 7 we had, and I won that one. Round 7 I faced against Beelzemon, and he just got his stack, just everything he needed. Just really quick, and I was just very I won't say surprised. It's gonna sound weird on my end, but it felt very much like he got just everything he needed to, where I was still just looking for my pieces. So he just got his pieces way before I did. And then round 9, I had the hardest matchup probably of the day against Blue Flare. And Blue Flare against this deck it's a kind of a coin flip, because they do initially give you a lot of memory, so there's a lot of stuff you can do early. But if you don't see your pieces, or you are missing important pieces, then they get the advantage of you. They can stun your stuff, but and then swing. And if they give them too much memory, then again, they can do a lot with 3 or 4 memory. So the guy I was facing, I will say there was only one unfortunate set where I did have essentially game on board. The last card I hit was Sorai out of his security, and that kind of sealed it for him. So he was able to finish up on his turn and everything. So it was unfortunate, but I never like to say it's. I always say hindsight's 2020. There were a few misplays. I have a stream. If anyone is interested, definitely let me know. I could post streams of my my runs on YouTube if people are interested. But right now I'm keeping it private, just in case people have concerns about it. I want to always get feedback from my audience and the players I face. So anyway, those are the matchups. And something I will just mention for BT14 when we get it is we have this yellow Magnemon that is a level 4. And although we're not getting any Royal Knights, we do get the Ace Monsters. We have a card that is called Magna Angemon that is a level 5. And this might be the only way you can actually Digivolve in this deck. Kind of going around the rule is Magnum Angemon has an effect of on your opponent's turn, or when the opponent attacks, you can Digivolve this card, and this card, the King Jazel, only prevents you from Digivolving on your turn. So on your opponent's turn, you can actually Ace Digivolve into Magna Angemon, which might take up 1 or 2 spots. It lets you recover a little bit into the deck, and so that is just something to be aware of, and a change I might make for the deck, and see how it does. But that's what I have for you today. I hope it was helpful for you. The Royal Knights are a really fun deck, and I hope that this deck profile is going to be something that you guys can watch and enjoy and be able to use maybe going forward into any future tournament settings. So anyway, with that said, thank you guys as always for watching, and as always, stay classy.